Right.
But then,
what is he making?
my dad looks over the fence one day and sees the guy carrying a whole bunch of chains into the shed. Then the next thing he knows, the guy is carrying all these shackle-looking things into the shed, the kind you use to keep a person prisoner.
Person? This video is true creepy neighbor horror story, narrated by Let's Read. This is on Wansee Entertainment's channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, link is in the description box below for you to check out now. And also, check us out on Twitch, because we have wild nights. Tonight was a wild night as well. All right, let's get into the video.
We used to have this neighbor back when I was 15, and I didn't find this out until years later, but he basically was the sole reason we ended up moving out of the house we were living in at the time. So the way my dad tells it, it all started when the guy started making something in the shed in his backyard. Obviously, he was entitled to do whatever he wanted on his property, especially during the daylight hours, but my dad said all the sawing and hammering noises were a real pain in the butt. He figured it'd only be a couple of days, but a week went by and the guy was still making all this noise in the evenings and on weekends. It went on late into the night on a bunch of different occasions, and my dad had to go over and threaten to call the cops to get him to knock it off.
Really?
Seems a little extreme, I know, but Dad had already tried asking nicely, and the guy was just a total jerk, so it was the only thing that seemed to work. After that, the guy kept the sawing and hammering to reasonable hours. Still a pain, apparently, but nothing he didn't have the right to.
Right.
But then,
what is he making?
My dad looks over the fence one day and sees the guy carrying a whole bunch of chains into the shed. Then the next thing he knows, the guy is carrying all these shackle-looking things into the shed, the kind you use to keep a person prisoner. Dad asks what he's building in there, but the guy is all, "Mind your business, mister," saying things like that. My dad is starting to get pretty nervous about the whole thing, and he's close to calling the cops because it was obviously looking incredibly shady, and maybe we'll get the guy to stop hammering and sawing all freaking day too. But still, he holds off for one night too long, and that's when he hears a scream coming from the guy's backyard.
Oh my goodness.
He says it was one of those screams of the blood-curdling variety, and he goes outside to listen. Then he hears a few more muffled sounds coming from the shed where the guy was building, whatever it was he was building in there. He tries looking over the fence to get an idea of what's going on and sees our neighbor walking out to the shed, covered in blood, with something sharp and shiny in his hand.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
But just before he closes the door, Dad said he caught a glimpse of someone strapped onto some kind of big wooden board.
Oh my goodness.
That was it. My dad runs back inside, calls the cops, and tells them something messed up is happening in our neighbor's backyard. How he has been building some kind of torture device or whatever, and how he thought he was in the process of basically murdering someone in there.
Alright.
The cops show up, but they don't make it into the backyard.
Why?
They just drive off after talking to the guy.
What did he say?
My dad calls the cops back and asks them what they're thinking, and they need to get into that shed right away because something unspeakable is happening in there. They tell them that they can't get into the guy's place without a warrant, that the guy had a bandaged hand and claimed the blood was because he had an accident. The cops seemed happy enough with that explanation and had gone back to their precinct.
Oh my goodness.
But they were in the process of getting a warrant because of my dad's claim that he'd seen a body in there. Because of how urgent it was. It might only be a few hours before they could get one signed by a judge. Then boom. The next day, the cops show back up at the guy's house at like 6 a.m. And it wakes my dad up because they were literally sawing a lock off the door to the shed.
Oh dear,
He watches all freaking morning. And get this.
What?
They carry out the body he'd seen in that shed.
Oh my gosh.
Only it wasn't a body.
What was it?
It was like one of those mannequin type things. And it had blood all over it.
What?
The guy has actually been building some kind of torture table in his shed, only he hadn't actually done anything to anyone. So the guy ended up getting a full apology from the county after they didn't find anything to arrest him over.
But
still,
hella weird.
My dad's not happy knowing he lives next to someone who'd build something like that.
Right.
And after arguing back
Was
and
that a
forth with
practice
the
one?
cops about the guy's right to build some sort of weird torture table, he ends up just being like, screw this. We're moving. He didn't say anything to us at the time because obviously me and my sister were still young and he didn't want anything like that in our heads. But after I'd moved out and my sister had graduated college, he ended up telling us at a little reunion dinner.
Oh my goodness.
As you can guess, our jaws were on the floor when he was telling us.
Wow.
As we had no idea he was anything but some annoying home improvements nerd.
Oh my goodness.
It came up because we were complaining about having to move schools at that age, as me and my sister both lost a bunch of good friends, and it sucked having to start at a new school.
Well, listen, your daddy was going to be next, because if that man was a killer, he was going to catch your daddy.
I figured the whole thing would be justified to us why we had to move, and honestly, I get it. I wouldn't want to live next to a freak like that, either.
They need to do a follow-up. Like, I wonder if he did anything. Yeah, who tells that at a reunion dinner? Who calls it a reunion dinner, though? Like, that's weird in and of itself, you know? Where'd the blood come from? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Why did it all have all this blood? And he said that he heard a scream. They said that he heard a scream. So where did that blood come from? Where did the scream come from? Where did the blood come from? Okay, now I feel like listen, I feel like it might be in the closet. You feel like the man is in your closet? You better get a bat and open that closet and hit him with the bat, okay? Yeah, what was the accident? That's true. He could have said that maybe he cut himself or something like that, you know? He did have a bandage with blood. What if it was his own blood? What if he was the one who screamed? Because he had the bandage, he was covered in blood, the mannequin clothes was covered in blood. They didn't find anybody else in there. So what if it was his own blood? What if he cut himself, not on accident, but cut himself, right? And put his blood on the outfits and stuff like that. Like, I can understand the blood and scream coming from the accident on his hand, but what caused that? That's true. That's true. He probably stuffed it inside the mannequin, the body. I think they would have found a body inside. They took the mannequin with them, you know, unless they give it back. I don't know. Yeah, they need to get a DNA test going. That was weird. That was very weird. I do feel like there should be a follow-up, like, you know, anybody that might have been missing in that area, and like if that guy was ever caught or something. Although he had a pardon because, well, not a pardon, they apologized, and that's kind of like a pardon because they're probably not going to go in again without actual hardcore evidence, because they were already embarrassed as a precinct and as a county to have to apologize to this guy. So now if he does something else, and if it's not hardcore evidence, if anybody reports it, they're not gonna make the same mistake twice. All right. So because of that, get DNA test going, because like, yeah, who creates that? He was preparing for something. Unless, you know what would be really crazy? Unless he was like a prop maker for like some type of set or something like that, or well, no, because why wouldn't you say that, you know? Unless it was some movie that he had to sign an NDA and he accidentally did cut himself and that was his blood and it wasn't on purpose, but he just cut himself really, really bad type of thing, you know? But also, why wouldn't you say, like, hey, I'm doing this for a movie, if it'll get you out of it, you know? So no, there's no benefit of the doubt that we could give him. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like, if you lived next to someone, if you were that father, would you move? Would you pick up and move your home? Let's say you owned your home, right? You got that equity that you've been putting into your home 5 years, and mortgages be like 30 years, bruh. 5 years into this 30-year mortgage, something like this happens. Are you moving? What are you doing? Let's say you got kids. What are you doing? Let me know down below. I think it was a decoy and he hid the body somewhere else. It could have been, for sure. I would move if I had a family and I didn't think they were safe. We moving. I got you. On to the next video.